Hello everyone, welcome once again to the African Tech Gurus. Remember, this is your channel where learning is by doing. And today we're going to learn about variadic functions, where I will take you through the task. Each and every task I will explain to you to my level best, and I promise that I will do my best, and I hope you will enjoy this particular video, as it will help you to understand the real concept as it is. So this is variadic functions, and first and foremost, I will just first do the first thing first, which will explain to you what are the files that you need. One is that you need the variadic function.h, that is the header file that will contain all your prototypes of the function that you will be using in this particular task. And also we'll be creating main.c files, which will be able to help us to make them executable, or to run the GCC and create an executable files. And the third thing is that we'll also be creating now the task files. The file, for example, if it is task1, so task1.c or whatever name that we'll be using. So we'll create three types of files. That is the header files that will be inside the variadic function.h, and then the main.c files, and now the task files. So now let's get into it and see what we're supposed to do. So I hope you have watched the previous video that we had created on the concept, explaining to you each and every concept. I've explained to you the concept or summarize all these resources that we have been given here. So in the previous video on the concept, I explained each and everything. So we have to learn one thing in this particular channel, guys. What we do is that we provide first of all the resources, summarizing all the resources and explaining what it does and what is happening before we come to a point of now explaining to you the task. Hope that is beneficial. I believe so. So now let's get into it now. So we'll just begin by having the header file, the directory that we'll be using. So we'll be using this particular kind of directory. So inside what? Inside the ALX law programming repository. So as you can see here, I'm inside that particular. Okay, I'm not inside. Let me list file. Yes, I have. So list lcd alx low level. What have I written? Okay, I written wrongly. I'm sorry. alx low level programming. Click enter. So I'm now inside that particular repository. I'm now supposed to create a directory like this one. So I'll copy this name of the directory like this. Then I'll say here mkdir to create the directory name. So, and then I paste this one. That's a directory name. Okay, let's wait what's happening. And then I click enter. So list file. So I have now the directory name here. You have 0x010 variadic function. So now let's begin. Now we are done with this. Let's get into that particular directory. Let's get into that particular directory like this. Then I click enter. So I am inside that particular directory now. So what's the first thing first? Remember, guys, don't forget this one. Don't forget to create a readme file. So the first thing is vi readme.md file. Then I click enter. Yes, I'm now inside the file, and then I to go to insert mode. Then I can write now the readme. So I'll just write like this. I'll just write 0x10. It's called like this, and then I say dash variadic function. Of course, it has not to be empty, so I'm just writing anything inside there because it's not supposed to be empty. So I've created the readme file. What's the next thing, guys? The next thing for me is to create a the variadic function header file. So I'll create this variadic function header file like this. So I will copy this one. This is the same name. Copy. It's the same name as what you have been given here. What you're having here. So I can just even copy this one. Copy. And then I come and say vi like that. then I paste that name, then I click enter. So I am inside this particular file. I click I to go to insert mode, and then I'm supposed now to write the header file. The header file in this case will contain the prototypes for this particular particular task. So we have this one of them. We have another one for the second task like this. These are just prototypes. So how do we create prototypes? How do we begin by creating prototypes? Let's see how we do it. So I begin by saying like this: if left, if not defined, that which is not defined, var like this function underscore h, like that. Then how we do? If not defined, that case, okay, I think I did it wrongly here. Like this. If not defined, like that, what should I do? I define. So how do I define? I'll say define like that. And then what am I defining? The same name, var, like that. Then what next? I have to include the library, the header file. So include in this case, I'm including the stdio.h, like that. Then I include also this std arg. Remember that one is a header file that provide the function capabilities or the facilities that will be able to be used in a functions that use or takes in more than or have a variable number of arguments. So for variadic function, we will be using include in this case, this one std arg, like that, dot h, that header file. And then what next? Well, let's now begin having the prototypes. So I will begin by this first prototype, this one here. I will copy and I will have it here, like that. Let's come to the second prototype. The second prototype for the second task, or task 1. This is it. I copy, then I have it here, paste. Then I have the third prototype for task 2. I'll copy like this, copy, and I have it here. Then the fourth prototype for task 3, like this, copy, they have it here, paste. Where did I do it? I think I did it wrong. Let me remove this, like this, up to this end, enter. Then I now paste. Yes, it is now fine. What did I not include? So I never include closing, and then like that. So I believe that one is okay now. So now let's end. So end if. I have to include hashtag here, like that. So this is now the prototype. This is the header file that will contain all our prototypes in this case. So now let's get into the task now. So escape, WQ, enter. So I've created the header file. We are done with that. What is the next thing? Let's create now the main.c file. So 0 main.c file. So vi, that's the first one, is 0 main.c. So vi 0 dash main.c, like that. Then enter. So I to go to insert mode, then I can now have the main.c file. So what's the main.c file here, guys? I'll copy this up to this point. This is like code that provide all these arguments that are used in the particular function. So escape now, and then like that. So I am at this point, I've created the 0 main.c file. So what files do I have? I have these 3 files: 0 main, readme, variadic function h. What is the next thing to do? The next thing to do is now to go into the task. This is the task name. Copy. Then here, vi, the task name. So the task name in this case is this one. Click enter. So I'm inside that particular file. So at this point now, guys, we want to write now our code. So how can we write our code? We are writing a code that does what? Let me check the question. That says write a function that returns the sum of all 3 parameters. So the sum of all 3 of its parameters. So these parameters is what it is being provided in main.c. You see, the sum is equal to this one. which is calling the function. It's called which function? The function that we have here, which we'll be using. It is calling that function. So you're supposed to create a function which will be called when this particular code here runs, when this main.c file is run. That function will be called, which is this one. So first of all, let's include the header file. So we say, and then say include. We are saying include, and then we are using double quotes. We are not using, remember in the other one we are using this one, but in this case we are using double quotes. Why? Because this is a file that we created ourselves. It is not what is inbuilt in the library of this particular compiler. So it is what we are creating by ourselves. We remember we created variadic function. Yes, so we are using a variadic function. Let me have it here so that you will not be errors. Copy this header file, copy. So let me have it here, paste like that. So that we are done with that one. So what's the next thing, guys? I will come to this point and create my comments. I will have a function. So first of all, before I create my comment, let me just create that particular function. Let me write that particular function. My function in this case is the same as this one, what we are having here. It's the same as this one, but don't use the semicolon. So you copy, but exclude semicolon. So paste. So I have that that function of mine here, but I have to explain what that function of mine means. So I say enter. Then I come at the top. Then I'll say now, explain now, what is this particular function means. So I'll say like this and say that I will just explain first of all this one. You see this one? I'll copy this one. This is how it look like. You must explain this one, what it means. So remember you are doing this so that Betty will not complain. Eh? So I do that and then I paste like that. Then I explain what is it. It is a function in this case that calculate the sum of its parameters. So calculate the sum of its parameters. Remember that is the function. You have been told to create a function that does that. So that's the function that does that. And then you must tell Betty what is n. The arguments. We are having argument called n. So what is this argument? So we say argument n. What is it? This one is the number of arguments passed to the function. This represents the number of arguments passed into the function. Yes, into the function. Then what next, guys? Next thing is the return. So I must say return. What is the return type? We are returning the resulting sum. Remember, when the calculation is done, what do you return? The resulting sum. So that is what we have to return at the end of this particular code. So and then now we close that comment. So we are done with the comment or explaining what this particular function will do. So now next thing is for us to now begin writing our code. So I will say now, I will just first of all use the unsigned int I, which is now this kind of variable. So first of all, let me just explain this one function. In this function, the int is the return type of this function. It will return an integer value, and the sum of all is the function name. The function name, remember, this is the function name that will be called when this particular 0.c file will be run. It will call this particular function called sum them all. And then we have argument. We have, in this case, we have two types of argument. We have two arguments, that is I, in this particular code. The first argument is this one, n. This is the first argument. The second argument is this one. What you are seeing, 3 dots. 3 dots represent the second argument, which is a type of an argument which indicate that this particular function receive a variable number of arguments, meaning that it receive a variable number of arguments. So it's like tells us that this is a variadic function which receive a variable number of arguments. So this ellipses here you are seeing here, guys, represent a variable number of argument, and this is the second argument in this particular function. Now let's begin writing our code. So I will say unsigned int I. So what is unsigned int I? So unsigned int I in this case represent this kind of parameter that will be passed. Yes. So then I will say like this. Then I come to the second thing, which is int sum. So in this point now, guys, I am declaring, and in this case I will initialize sum to 0. I will initialize sum to 0, so it will have a value of 0, meaning that nothing has been done, no calculation has been done. If there's no calculation at the end of the day, it will have to return for us 0. And then the next thing is that, guys, I will come now to talk about this special kind of variable. Remember, we know that there's a special kind of a variable which is being used by variadic function, which is called the var list. Remember, it's called it var list. So in this case now, we talk about this, we declare this variable var list, and what's the name? It is called list, like that. And then what next, guys? We come now to initialize this particular kind of variable. We are initializing this variable now. How do we initialize? Remember, we are using which kind of a keyword? We're using var start. So var, then start, like that. So that's what we are using to initialize the var list variable. So what we are giving? We are giving list, and then comma n. I'm sorry, n, like that. Then we close this one, and then we use semicolon, like that. So what next? Now we come now to a point of now iterating. So go through the loop. Go through the loop. Do we still have what? We have the first number as 2. Yes, I am done with that. So go to the next one, 19. Go to the next one, 1024. So let's come now the for loop. That what is the function of this particular for loop? It loops and or iterate through each of the n arguments. N argument, remember, n represents the number of arguments that is passed to this particular function. So it will iterate, it will go through the particular function until to the point whereby all function has been assessed. So let's use the for loop. So for, and then I will say I. Remember, I represent these particular values that will be given by when you run that particular int main function. So is equals to 0. That's initialized to 0. That's the first thing. And then I'm sorry, like that. And then we say I now. I, this I, which iterate, it will loop through the number of arguments, that is n. Then that is the next thing. Then in as long as it is I is still less than n. Remember that the I, the value given there, is still less than the number of arguments. The I is the argument itself, which is maybe argument number 2, is still less than the number of arguments. In this case, what you do, you come to I plus plus, which is mean that increment that particular I, or increment that to the next argument. You are going through the arguments, and then come to the next thing. In this case, now we have to use the var argument. The var arg. So we come to the var arg. What do we say it does? It happens is that in this case it will sum the sum of this particular argument that is being given here, and what it do is sum and give the value to sum using the var macro. So in this case now I will just initialize by saying sum. What is the answer of the sum? Sum will be equals to, it increment first of all, increment. So what value that sum has is 0. So it is plus equal, meaning that increment by the value that you are receiving from var arg, like this, guys, like that. And then which are arguments that will be passed to this var arg? It will use 2 arguments. Which are 2 arguments in this case? The var list variable, which is called what? List. The var list variable, which is called list. And the second argument is the type of the next argument. The next argument is it of type int. So the type of the next argument. So in this case, I will say the list, which is the var list variable. And then the next thing is you say the type, the data type of the next argument, which is the next argument which the user will give, or which will be given with that the main function is of type int. Remember, we are expecting to have what? Integer to sum all the integers. So it will be of type int. And then we close like this. And then, so now that we have done that, so this one will allocate the answer of this one into sum. It will add to what the sum already contains. If it has 5, it will add that value gotten there into 5, which will be 5 plus that number. Then now we are done this point, guys. We come to what called the var end. Var end, what does var end means? That it is coming to a point whereby we have assessed all the arguments passed into this particular function. Now that we have assessed all these arguments passed into the function, which function is that? It's var called list. the function called list. So I've assessed all the function passed to this argument, and the function, the variable called list is what contain all these type of arguments. What we do is that after I've assessed all of them, what we do is we clean them. So the purpose of var_n is to clean up the var list variable after all the argument has been assessed. So I believe at that point I have explained that. So let's now have this like this, then come to the end, which is now the return type. So return type in this case, guys, I will say return. I say return, and then like this, and then I say sum. I say sum, and then what is returning? Remember what we said here? The return type is the resulting sum. Then in that case, I will close like this, like that. So we are done with that, and then I close now here, which is now. So this particular code, I think I've explained to my level best, and it is now okay. So it's now another thing. Let's escape like this, and then come to a point whereby let's run the GCC to see whether our function meets all the requirement. So copy this, I'll copy here, and I'll have it here. So first of all, let me clear this one so that it will be visible. Clear. So I'll come here and paste this one. I believe, guys, it will work. Yes. So list file, you'll notice that we have a file called a.xe. So let's run now. Like a.exe. Then I click enter. What happened? It gives us 10, 22, and 500. Yes, is it true? Yes, this one and this one. So you have 10, 22, and 500. So guys, that is it. That one is for task 1. We are done. So what we do then, you git push now. So use your git add and git commit, and then you git push. I believe that point will work. Okay, let me try. Git add, which is not even necessary for now for me. It says, okay, git commit. Git commit, I will give the message as, what is the git commit message? I will give the beauty or variable is ugliness constant. All right, okay, paste like that. Okay, and then I say git push. So I push now my code. So my code is now pushed into the GitHub. So now we are done. Let me clear that. Now let's get in the second task, guys. The second task, what are you supposed to do? Let's create first of all one main.c. So vi one-main.c. Then I click enter. So now let's copy this particular here up to this end. So copy, have it here. Guys, this is the main function that pass some of the argument, arguments in this case. So these arguments are how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Though there are 6 arguments. Then escape now. Now we are done with that. Now let's create the task name. The task name in this case is this one. So let's say vi, then the task name here. Then I click on enter. So I'm on that task name. Then I click on I to go to insert mode. So at this point, guys, we are now creating our second task. And what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to include all this, give the comments. We are supposed to include the variadic function. So I'll just begin by include. So allow me, guys, to, yes, so I'll say include. I will say include, in that case, include the variadic function. So remember, I will just copy so that I will not be able to confuse. So I will just copy this variadic function here. I'll copy like this, copy. Then I'll come here, paste. So then I close like that. Let's come to a point of arguments. Let me write the function name for task 2. For task 1, I'm sorry. Task 1, it has to look like this without semicolon at the end. Don't copy the semicolon, please. Paste like that. So we have that particular function prototype. We have that particular prototype. And then I click enter now to define. I have to explain what each and every part of that code mean. So I'll say this one, and then I do like this. Then first of all, I have to say what this function is. this particular function here, guys. So I'll say like this. And then what I do is that I want to say that this function print the number given as parameters. Print numbers given as parameters, like that. Then what is the next thing is that there is another argument here. You see inside here we have an argument which is called separator. We have an argument called int, and then another argument here. So then let's talk about this argument called separator. What is all about this particular argument? Separator, yes. And then it's a string. First of all, this separator is a string to be printed out, to be printed out between, or to be printed between, let's say to be printed between numbers, because we are having different numbers. You are getting numbers from the main function, and then you print them out. So you have to have some separator so that it will be seen as different numbers. So it will be like, if assuming we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 without any separator, it will be like a whole number around a million or a trillion, whatever. Yes. So we have to have a separator. Then we come to now another argument in this case, which is n, which represent what? The number of integers passed to the function. So we say that this one represents the number of arguments passed into the function, like that. Then we are done with that. Sorry, like that. Have it like that. Let me close. What's happening? Okay. Yes. Now we are done with that. So we have this particular type of function, void, which return. This is the return type, which is void. And then we have the print numbers, which is the function name. So the return type of this particular function called print numbers is void. And then we have const characters, meaning that this cannot change, it's a constant. And then we have separator. Separator cannot change. Separator cannot change because it's just something that separates. Then constant in and sign int, which is the number of integers that will be passed to this particular function. So this particular function has three types of argument: the separator, the unsigned int, and the ellipses, which represent that this particular function receives a variable number of arguments. So we are done with that. Let's get into it. This one. Let's get now into writing the code. So we write the code like this. How are we writing the code? We are writing the code like this by first beginning with the I. So unsigned, we'll say declare this as unsigned. I'm sorry. Unsigned int I, like that. Unsigned int I, like that. And then we initialize the second. Okay, so I've written this. So having now, I've written this one, unsigned int like this one, and then this one, and then the var list n like this. Then for I, we mean that for I is equal 0, I is less than n, meaning that in as long as it is not the last one, you increment, go to the next argument. So until you get to the last argument, which is being given on the main void, the main function. So come to if separator, this one, print this one. You print that particular number given, and then what are you using? You're using the var char. So remember I say that it will check whether this particular separator, meaning that is null. If it is not null, what does it do? If the integer argument is printed, it is what if it is now not null, or if it is null in this case? Okay, what I can say is that if it is null, the integer argument is printed using the printf, that is of format specifier d, which is an integer. So I will say that if that is null, so you print. Then like that, I'll say, and then in this case, guys, I will just use the var argument in this case. And then I'll say what will I say? I will say this one. I will say the list. These are the arguments. It received two type of argument: the list, which is the var list variable, the list, and the type, the data type of the next argument, which is like this, guys. And then I close like that. then I use this one. So what next? Else, if not null. If or I'm sorry, else if not null, what do we do? If not null, what do we do? If not null, which okay, if separator, I'm sorry, else if okay, I have not reached the end. If separator, I'm sorry, separator, like that. I believe I've read it correctly. Separator, yes. And then and I, if separator and I is not equals to 0, what do you do? Like that. So if that is the case, what do I do? Then what I will do is that I will printf. So that is printf like that. And then using the format specifier d, that is %d in that case. And then I will use the var, the var, is it var? I'm sorry, not var. It is var. Even this other one here, I use wrongly. It's not var, it is var. This is how I pronounce. I'm sorry, guys. It's var, and then arg in that case, and then into bracket. Now the var list variable, which is called the var, the list, and the type of the next argument, which is int also. And then I close like that. Then I use this one. So I believe at that point I am done with that. Let's check now. Now, if all this criteria is not met, let's come now to else. If else. Now you have talked about the else if. What about else? All this is not met. If all this condition is not correct, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to say print. We are printing now. Remember this now where we are separator. We are printing now the percentage s, which is now the separator. Remember, this is not the first number, this is not the second number, but we are having a separator so that we will separate numbers 0, 1, like that. So percentage s, percentage d, like that. Not percentage s, then percentage d. Then I close like that. And then what I was supposed to do to give a separator. If all this now, if all the conditions are okay, then what you do is that you put a separator so that it will be 0, 1, 2, like that. And then what am I using? I'm using also the var arg. Yes. Then I'm passing into parameters as a list and then the int. I believe up to this point you understand what list and the int. Then I close like this, like that. Then I come here, then I close this one. I believe I've closed all the 4. Then what next? I'll come at this point, I use the var end. Hope you remember what var end means. In this case, that after you have checked or assessed all the arguments that are passed into this particular function, it is now time to clean that particular var list variable which contain all the arguments. So it's now time to clean. So var list end, which is clean. Then the last thing now is print a new line. So printf, in this case, you're using a print that is /n. I believe it's okay. Then I close and then I terminate like that. Now let's close our code like this. I believe that point it is okay. Anything, guys? Let me check. I believe our code is okay. Separator. I believe at that point is okay. Let's check. Escape. Now let's at this point let's run GCC. I'll run my GCC. Copy. Paste. What is it says? It say unsign and declare first use in the function. Okay, where did I fail? Let me check. First use in the function. I declare unsign int I. So why is it saying that I have not? Oh, I'm sorry. I say unsign. I'm able to see. I say assign, not you sign. Where am I? I'm at this point. Let me correct that one. I've used assign instead of unsign. Yes, I believe now it's work. Yes, let's run again. What does it say again? Implicit declaration of function print. This one, implicit declaration of print. Percentage S, this one. In the file include from Variadic function .h. Okay, let's check on the Variadic function. Before the building, let's check on the Variadic function. What did I use? Okay, let me check. What did I use? I used the var. I used the var ARM. What did I use? Let me check first of all. Let's try again. Let's try, I believe here. Where is it? Let's check. Unsigned implicit declaration. Okay, let's check this one. Okay, there's a comma here. I to go into insert mode. Let me check again. I believe this will work this time around. Yes, go here. Up this point. It's okay to get an error. Sometimes you find that, hey, it may not give you as expected. So, again, let's check again. Let me check again the GCC. Sorry. GCC. Enter. Okay, errors are reducing. What does it say? This one say, oh, it worked. List file. Didn't work. What is the error? I ran and it gives me okay, supposed to give me the same thing. Let me check. What is supposed, which file am I supposed to run? The B. I think I didn't run it. Let me copy again. Copy. Let's copy here. Let's paste at the end. Okay, what is it? Implicit declaration of function printf separator here. All warning and treated as errors. Okay, let's get back to it and check what is it. Implicit declaration of function printf. I've used it correctly. What is it? Okay, let's check again. Yeah, get into it. Okay, where is it? Let's get here, insert mode first. I to insert mode. I. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, first of all, I see another error which might cause an error in Betty. Here, there is something here. I must say between the space between I and 0, a space. Then another error I'm seeing here in this line. This is the line which is complaining so much. I think printf, not print. I use print instead of printf. Escape now. Hope it will work this time around. And then I click on enter. Enter. List file. Finally, it has worked. So let's now check b.exe. Then I click on enter. So it gives us 98, 098, negative 24, and all those. So it is true. Yes, it gives us the right answer. Yes. Now, guys, let's get into. Okay, you can git add on your own. I will not do it. I believe you saw I git add on the first one. So in this case, I will not git add. Let's get into the task 2. I see the time is far much gone. Let me do the task 2. So task 2, I will just create a vi2-main.c. Guys, like that. Then I click enter, and then I will copy this particular code here, which is saying up to this end. Copy. This is the main function code. What does it do? It passes some arguments here, and it expects those arguments to be printed out. It says that write a function that prints strings followed by a new line. This is a prototype where separator is a string that we printed between the strings. That is the truth. It is a string that we printed between the strings. All right. So now that is the case. Okay. So in this case, let's do what we are supposed to do for this particular task. What are we supposed to do in this particular task? What are we supposed to do in this particular task? Let me take you through. So this is the same as the other one. So let me escape first of all this. Escape like this. And then, so now they have cleared main.c file. Let's create now the file name for print strings. So copy here. I'll vi. So vi, then the name of that particular file. Enter like that, and then I go I to insert mode. So now let's do this one. So I will do it faster. Okay, let me pause to write first of all the include, the arguments, then the comments, and the function. So that one is, I believe at this point, that one you understand. So let me pause, then I code that one. Okay, so I've written that one. So now that I believe this one you understand, this one is describing this particular print string here. This one is describing the first argument. This one is describing the second argument. The first argument is separator between the string. Then second argument is the number of argument passed. And then this one is the header file for this particular, that contains the prototype for this particular function. All right, now that I've done that, now let's begin doing some code now in this case. So for code, we first begin by unsigned int. We represent what the function will pass. So unsigned int, the function main, which will pass. So int I, like that. I'll do like that. Then the next thing is declare now what will be printed, which is the car string. So I will say the car, which is of, is a pointer, which is a pointer called the string, pointing to a character value, like that. Then I'll come now where we talk about the var list variable. So I'm initializing the var list, no, not initializing, declaring the var list called list. That's the var list variable called the list. What's the next thing, guys? I will come at this point now where I will talk about initializing this particular kind of a variable here. I'm initializing with a value. What am I using? I use the var start to initialize that particular variable. What am I initializing? The list. I'm initializing list. That's what I'm initializing. It is list. What is, and then having another argument n, which represents the number of argument passed in that particular function. Then let's come now to the second thing, which is the loop, which in this particular loop, it will iterate through each of the n string, meaning through each of the number of arguments passed to this particular function. And what often is that the function retrieve the next string. This one in all over this n. So it get the first one, it retrieve. Is there a second one? Yes. Is there that one? Yes. So it will go through the iteration trying to look for each one of these. So that's what I will write a for loop that do that. And then also is that we'll be using the var car, or the what you call the var, like that. Is it var car? Like that, something like that. Okay, these key macros, these are macros name. So var start, var arc, and var end is all the macros in this case. So I will be using var arc to that is to retrieve the next string in the argument and store now that particular value that is being retrieved into str variable here. This variable here, it will store what this variable is, that it will store what is being retrieved by var macros. It will restore that particular character or whatever that is being retrieved. So if that particular now, okay, now let's run that particular code. So in that code, I will say for, that is for loop, and then I will say the I in this case, which is equal to 0 in the first place, and then I'll talk about that I is not the last one. In as long as it is not the last one, I is less than n. It is not the last one. So what do? We increment. Okay, I'm sorry guys, there's something I forget here. Here. So I is not, I'm sorry, is not the last, like that. And then I'll say I increment like that. Then I close that one. I believe that point I'm okay. Then what do I do if all this condition is still okay? What do I do? I'll say str this one, which is equal. Remember that str will store what is being retrieved by the var argument. So store what vararg will retrieve. It will retrieve from which variable? A variable called list. Which is the var list variable, which retrieve from that variable. Remember that list is the store all the arguments. Yeah. So n is that type of argument, but var list is store all the arguments. Retrieve from that list variable, and then what are we retrieving? We are retrieving n argument. Not argument, like the character. I'm saying the character itself, which is in that case we are getting from that particular n in that argument. Then now we do like this. Let's come now to if now, assuming that it is not, assuming that's not is not null. So what we do is that if that str like is not null, like this is not null, what do we do next? What do we do next? What we do is that we set str. We are saying now str will contain, what will it contain? It will contain null. I'm sorry. It will contain now what? Nil. I'm sorry, not null. Nil. That's what it will. That particular str variable will contain. Now, else if now we have talked about if it is null. What about if it's not null and has something? What is this something that we'll have? If else if, in this case, which it means that the separator. Remember, we need to have a separator. Yes, separator. We need to have the separator, and if the separator and that's ampersand and I is not equals to 0, is not equal to 0. What do we do? What do we do? What we do is that we print that, but we say print that. Let me printf so that I will not forget. So printf that particular string that we have been passed. So we use the percentage s to print that particular string like that, and then I'll say that variable like that str like this. Yes, so print that particular string. If it is not null but has something, it is not equal to 0. What does it do? Print that particular string. Else if, because we are coming to the second one. So that is it. I think I'm done with that. Okay, that is else. Okay, there's something to be another else here. Okay, that one, that is, it's checking for the whether it's nil, whether it's null. So I need to have another here, which now for now the what will be printed. I was wondering, so what will be printed will be, I'll say first of all, there's something I forgot, if, which in this case I will say that if separator is not null, separator like that, and then I close this one like this. I believe that way. And then I'll say print f. I will print f like that and say percentage is still the same thing, like this, percentage s like that, and then I still print what? The str. I still print the str like that. I believe that is okay. Yes, I will print the str like that. Now let's come to this other one. Let's come to this other one. Sorry, this other one here. In this other one here, I will come to this after else if. Now after else if, I have talked about that particular else if. In that case, I will come now to else if all. Now else, what's happening? Else now, all this condition now, okay, all else print for us now that as printf. So now don't forget printf percentage s, and then also percentage s, meaning that string plus another string like that, and then I close this one, comma, and then say separator like that. That is a comma again. You must have that string separator, that str again, what is contained that particular variable like that. I believe at that point I have now be able to clear everything. If it's, I believe it will work. Let's come here and close this, and we have closed that particular for loop. Let's also, after closing that particular for loop, let's now print a new line. So print f into bracket percentage okay, that is /n, I'm sorry, /n like that. Then come to the next one, which is now what is to clear all this story. So use the var end, which will clean the var list variable. What are we cleaning? The var list variable after all argument has been assessed. Then we now close our code like this. I believe at this point our code will work. Let me believe it will work. I believe I've done all whatever required like this. Escape. Let's now run the GCC. Let's run the GCC, hoping it will work. Copy. the end. All right, list file. Yes, it has worked. So what we do next, this c.exe like that, and then I click on enter. So I'm having all this J and Django. So having J and Django, which is the truth. Okay, let's get to the last task. There is VI. First of all, let's create the 3 main.c. So 3 main.c, which will be VI 3 dash main.c. Then I to insert mode, and then I'll copy this particular code here given here. Copy. Believe I've copied well. Yes, I've copied it well. Now escape. Like this, enter. The next thing is now to create the file name. I'll create the file name, which is 3-print vi. I'm sorry. So vi, that particular name, which is like this, and yes, I to go to insert mode. Now we are in we are in the insert mode. So in this case, guys, I will pause so that I'll create these other ones. They include variadic function, the comments, the function prototype, and this other one, the variable declaration, and I will explain it so that I will explain to you from volume. All right, let me do that. Let me pause kidogo. So I have copied that up to that point. Now let's come to this point. Now let's continue. So at this point, guys, I have said include header file. So this is the header file here. And then I give some comments which explain what this particular function does. Print all. This is a function name which print anything. Print anything. The return time is void. The return type is void. And then ask two arguments. I'm sorry. It has how many arguments? 2 or 3? It has 3 arguments. Yes, 3 arguments. It is the constant card here. Which is a constant. No, it's only 2 arguments, and which is a constant card. This one const, which specify the type of argument to be passed, which has to be what they are supposed to be constant. They cannot change, which is called format. So this is the format, one of the arguments, and then the second argument is this one, which is ellipses, showing that the variable number of arguments. This one represents the variable number of arguments. Then we come to say I is equal to 0. We initially seizing to 0. Then you say character, this one str, and then also and then we have this also is pointing to this one. We have 2 variables here, which is of pointers pointing to a character variable. And then what we can say is that we are initializing to nothing. We are not giving anything. Then we come to initialization of the valid variable, which is a special type of variable that what it does is that it will hold the variable argument passed into this particular function. It will hold the variable number of arguments which are passed into this particular function. So now we then initialize that particular variable using the var start. So initialize the list variable with the format, this one, which is now the constant, which is passed to this particular the format of the type of that particular argument that are passed to this particular function. So the format is constant. That is, their format is constant. So that is what it does. And then let's come now to a point of checking all the loops that we are supposed to do. So in this case now, what happens is that we have to check whether, first of all, the format is null, meaning that that particular value, is it null? So we have to check first of all if it's null. If it is not null, then the function has to loop through each and every character in the string. Yeah, that's what it has to do. And then what we'll do is that inside the loop, the function will use the switch statement. So we'll see me writing some switch statement here and there to check the current character, and then use also the appropriate the VA argument, or VA, I call it VARG function, to retrieve the next argument. Remember the function that particular macro, all it does is that it retrieves the next argument of the type that the var list variable will contain. So another thing is that if that particular character, or that particular current character is what can I say? Let me say, what can I say here? What I'm saying is that if this particular character is equal to a particular kind of a character that will be passed, then the function retrieve a character argument using what the var function, and prints it with the %c format specifier, which specifies that this is a characters. So now, if it's now I, if it's I, what does it do? Then the function retrieve the int argument. If it is C, what means that it identifies that this is a character string, a string. If it found I, it's identified that this is an int argument. So, and then with the print, the int argument, it will print using the %d format specifier. Okay, if it is F, it ensures that this is out. This is a float or a double argument, and it prints using what? The F format specifier. If the current character in this case is S, then the function retrieve what? A string. If it is C, it's a character. If it is I, it is an integer. If it is F, it's a double. And if it is S, it is a string. So it will retrieve using the same argument as the var argument and print with the %s format specifier. And then what happens is that if the argument is a string and is null, what the function is that it will print nil instead. So now let's write the code. I will write the code here. Now guys, now that I've written this code, I had paused. Remember I had paused. So now that I have it, this one now. So let's have it now. We have say that if it's C, it encounters that know that is a character. And that is why I say varchar access through the list, which is a variable, the var list variable, which is a special variable that contains the list of variable arguments. And then the int, then break. Then what does again check whether it's an integer, whether it's a float, whether it's a string, and then it print them with their respective format specifier. Remember, we are using the var arg in this one to check the next arguments, check all through the arguments in this case. Then after we are done that, what we do is that we use this one to comma, which is a separator, to separate what? To ensure that there is a separator string is printed between the arguments in that case, guys. So I believe that is okay. Then I will escape. And then now we run the GCC. It gave me an error. What's the error? In function print all. What is it saying? The expected declaration of the statement at the end of the input. This one. It is line 2. Okay, let me check. Okay, let's check. Okay, I close. No, let me close here. All right, yeah, I not close this one, guys. Let me close. That's why it's saying expected. Escape now. That's why it's saying here expected. You see here, it's saying expected. It expected that one. So let's now run the GCC again. Enter. Yes. Yeah, it has run. So now let's use the d.exe. Enter. Yes, it's a B3 ST school, whatever. Yes, this one. Yes, it is the expected output. Now, guys, let me git add my code. So git add, git commit. What's the commit message I'll give? I'll say, let's make all task solved. Then enter, git push. All right, guys, we are done with this particular task. Thank you very much for following up to this particular end. See you in the next video. But one thing, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We are here to give you all we can, guys. We are trying all our best to give you all the best that we can. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and refer a friend so that let them subscribe to our channel too. Bye-bye.